William Nicholas Selig was born on March 14, 1864, in Chicago, Illinois, into a large Bohemian Polish family. In his teenage years, he worked as a vaudeville performer in San Francisco. He made up a series of separate unrelated acts which were grouped together on a common bill.
He later returned to Chicago to open his own small photography studio and began exploring how he might make his own moving pictures without paying a patent fee to the Edison Company. Thomas Edison's company discovered the kinetoscope, which was designed for films to be viewed individually through a window of a cabinet where it housed components.
I mean, it's one thing to videotape a stage play. It's something completely different to actually make a story, come together, a visual story, and that's the evolution of film in my mind, more than just putting a camera in front of a stage play.
In 1896, Selig founded the Selig Polyscope Company in Chicago, one of the first motion picture studios in America.
He brought film, in essence. He brought the movie industry to Chicago.
The Polyscope Company progressively began to make films. On September 7, 1899, Selig married Mary Pinkham in Chicago.
In 1909, William Selig moved to California to build his own movie studio and soon the Selig Zoo.
He purchased 32 acres of land next to East Lake Park. At a reported cost of $1 million, the property was turned into a zoo for the animals that he used in his films. Selig was the first producer to build a studio in Hollywood, California. This active westward migration began the development of what would result in the legendary motion picture capital of the world, later to be known as Hollywood. By 1915, 700 animal species were residing at the Selig Zoo. The MGM lion was one of the most famous lions that was kept at this zoo.
Selig began using these animals in his jungle-themed films.
The Selig Polyscope Company was able to film one of the first Wizard of Oz movies. Selig shot his movies in 35mm black and white film. Since they didn't have microphones, they used title screens to describe what was taking place.
Well, we all have fond memories of movies. Movies are that magical moment for kids and adults to escape the world that they're living in. And not unlike Wizard of Oz was in 1939, I remember my parents taking me to Snow White. I remember them taking me to Bambi. I remember the Disney films, the cartoons. But then again, I also remember my father taking me to those long historical films. And my love of history, in part, was born in a movie theater, sitting down watching movies with my father from a very young age.
Do classics like these make the movies we have today too futuristic?
I think what's amazing about movies, and you talk about movie classics, as we're seeing even now this season, some of the great movies are being remade. What makes a classic is we keep wanting to see it. And what I enjoy is seeing the new, modern, 21st century movie makers go back and try their hand at how would they make these classics. There's already talk of making another Wizard of Oz. With the success of Wicked on the Broadway stage, there's talk of making another Wizard of Oz or bringing Wicked to the movie theaters. But this season, for instance, True Grit, which was one of the great westerns of the 1970s, being remade with Jeff Bridges in the title role. I think movies, as much as technology is changing the way we watch movies, there's always going to be the cinema, there's always going to be Friday night, and there's always going to be popcorn in my lap as I'm watching that great film.
In 1916, he sold the Endale property to William Fox and moved his studio onto the zoo property.
William Selig's glory days are in the past. As he faded into darkness, the cost of operating the large zoo during the Great Depression had reduced Selig's fortune to nothing. In 1947, Selig and his several other film pioneers were awarded a special Oscar for their accomplishments. The former Selig Polyscope studio in California is now an empty lot in an industrial area. Many residents are unaware of this historical significance, and it's unfortunate that ruins of buildings are built on top of this historical landmark. A year later, Selig died on July 15, 1948, at age 84 with his loving wife, Mary.
Selig was buried in a beautiful mausoleum at the Chapel of the Pines Cemetery in Los Angeles, California. In honor of his death, Selig was given a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for all of his accomplishments. Selig will always be remembered for his stupendous films and hard work throughout his career. Even though he is not around today, he will always be remembered as William Selig, man of the movies.